GM and welcome back to the channel. Now in this one, we are less than 24 hours away from the first vote and potentially the last vote for Arbitrum Incentives, which will go live over the period November through to January of 2024. So this could spell a big change over the next 3 months for the Arbitrum ecosystem as these tokens make their way to projects to incentivize usage. So let's jump into some of the data here and see what's going on over at Arbitrum. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you do subscribe to the channel and we'll jump on in. So let's take this from the top. So the Arbitrum short-term incentive program has been lined up to direct more users to the Arbitrum ecosystem. They want to get more users, more sticky users is the hopeful endpoint of this. And it seems they have noticed there was obviously a bit of a shortcoming. There's been a to and fro between Arbitrum in the start of the year, getting a lot of hype and attention. That died down. Optimism was the flavor in town. And of course, they want to be highly competitive in terms of dwindling users in the crypto space. So they want to incentivize people to use their products. So this incentive program, a short-term incentive program, was going to distribute up to 75 million tokens. But as you can see, this vote previously ended on the 18th of September. And the most popular vote was for up to 50 mil ARB to be utilized. So it will be 50 million Arbitrum tokens. There is a bit of nuance behind this. This could be increased as there's quite a few asterisks within the documentation here. But the ground basis here is 50 mil ARB tokens over pretty much the next 3 months. So this from Yash Crypto, who's been very hot on this. He says, look, the 50 mil ARB grant has already been filled because essentially enough projects have already hit quorum. That means they've received enough total votes and of course enough for votes in favor of their applications to be accepted in. And so he goes on that the allocation must now be determined by the amount of votes in favor of a proposal and then on a first come first serve basis, depending on the time the proposal was submitted to the Arbitrum forum. So what we can see here is it is the amount of votes that is now very much necessary. So we're going to go into the voting on this just to see who is going to be getting the tokens and how many they've asked for and see if there's anything we can deduce from this, potential price appreciation or how this will affect the various ecosystem. So if you look at this documentation here that the Arbitrum DAO put out, there was a voting round 2, but seeing as all the 50 mil tokens have been applied for, we've got enough projects already reached quorum, it seems this will no longer be needed, and it looks like all the votes from round 1 are what is going to count here. So what I noticed over the last week was that a lot of projects were starting to thank their community for voting for them as they all started to hit quorum around a similar time point. Of course, the big whales with a lot of governance tokens were voting, a bit later on in the rounds here. So we do have more of a set picture with roughly 15 hours from the time of filming here until the first vote ends. So this is the kind of lineup here. And what you can see by the votes by sector is there is a heavy amount of voting in towards the kind of use cases that have already taken off on Arbitrum. Of course, GMX was the big first use case. I think without GMX absolutely paving the way, I don't think Arbitrum would be anywhere near as big as it is. It was the real trailblazer. And as you can see here, perps and dexes make up the vast majority of the quorum being hit. And if you look here, perps and dexes have received the vast majority of total votes. They secured their quorum very early on, and also the total amount of ARB requested into perps and dexes is very high indeed. So if you look here, this would actually total almost 47 million ARB tokens. So if these were all successful, say, almost all of this initiative would go to perps and dexes. So some of the other sectors, the likes of real world assets, data analytics, and NFTs gaming, not getting a lot of love. Does this therefore mean ARB will be the home of trading on chain? Well, if the votes are anything to go by, then certainly it looks likely. If you come down to this, the dashboard link is here. So this is where we're getting all the live data straight into this Google Doc. So check that out via the link down below. These are live numbers. And so the projects listed on here, the ones with the highest number of votes are the ones who are going to receive the incentives. The greatest number of 4 votes currently in for DopeX, GMX, Camelot, Mux, and Pendle in the top 5 here. A lot of projects have applied. And if you just look over to the red bar that just came into picture there, these are the cumulative grant requests. So we know there's 50 million ARB tokens up for grabs. And so this is a bit of a cutoff here. Vertex protocol currently ranked 35, probably won't be receiving any, as the above requests are the ones that are getting in there prior to that 50 mil cutoff. It's updating live here. You've just seen Rabbit Hole has been bumped down to 41 there. Very interesting to see on that update there just in a few moments. Vertex has now got a load more votes. So this is kind of like the final reckoning. Obviously, there's around 15 hours of voting left. So these tables are going to change a lot. And if there's big whales out there with tons of ARB tokens who want to make themselves known and really upset things in here, what they're going to start doing is moving these numbers about like crazy. So I would say, apart from say like the top like 10 protocols, maybe the ones who have got at least 140 million votes, they seem pretty safe. But as you can see, 85 million votes is the current cutoff with just hours left to play. Now, direct your attention to this box up here. It says, we do not expect applications to exceed the funding budget of 50 million ARB. However, if requested and the grants do exceed the allocated budget, i.e. 50 mil, they will be allocated based on the amount of votes in favor and then on a first come, first served basis. But they leave this in here. In the event that the budget is exceeded, the DAO may choose to unlock further funds for a third round or backfund successful incentive proposals. So there is a potential that all these may well just get a load of funding. So what we're going to see here is whether the Arbitrum DAO just decides to chuck even more tokens in and make everybody happy, rather than leaving some people out in the cold and some of these big protocols with tons and tons of coins. So if your favorite protocol is in here, what you want to see is first them getting a ton of total for votes, but also getting a high percentage for as well. If there's landslide victories, of course, these guys are very likely to be getting said tokens. But if there's like 51 to 49%, I don't think we've got anything too close. Maybe the likes down here of Synapse, 57% for and roughly 43% against. I do think it's quite unlikely they'll receive anything, as that is pretty poor turnout and it shows they've not got resounding support. Now, I wanted to go through 3 projects real quick here just to show you the kind of TLDR on what they've been requesting and kind of how the votes have gone for them. So first and foremost, we have GMX, the biggest project on Arbitrum. Resounding 94% of votes were for, over 153 mil votes in total, with 15 hours left remaining here. GMX currently at $35. If we look over the last 2 weeks of price data here, when the initial proposal was announced, we saw a run up in a load of the tokens, but it has sold off and they won't be receiving the tokens till November. So still a good few weeks out. But I would suspect with the incentives being laid on top, people will find their way to trading on GMX more. And as we can see from the incentive distribution here, what they requested initially was 14 million tokens. This has been walked back a little bit. It is now 12 million tokens, but split along these lines. So they wanted 6 million ARB for trading incentives, including trading contests. So this would of course direct more people to trade on chain. This is going to be good for the overall revenue of GMX. As we know, it has a staking model. Likely, therefore, if revenues go up, it should increase GMX token price. Similarly, 6 million ARB towards liquidity incentives. More liquidity, again, added to the DEX would mean better trading execution. These top 2 points pretty much go hand in hand. More revenue, thus more staking rewards. And then third and final, they had 2 million ARB to support protocols with integration. So actually getting money into the hands of those who wish to build on top of GMX. They have loads of integrations so far. I think somewhere in the region of like 75. So this would make their project even stronger. I think GMX is a great bet for the bull market, clear product market fit, clear market leader as well. And this would only serve to strengthen that status. Now, another perps trading platform is Mux Protocol, and these guys actually have quite a low market cap. Compare that to GMX, which is somewhere in the region of 330 mil. So 10% of the actual market cap, that of Mux. GMX receiving 12 million ARB tokens. Mux potentially going to receive 6 million ARB tokens. They walked this back from 9 million at the start of the proposal. They're in 6th position here, a landslide victory, 96% for 164 million votes. So this one's quite an interesting one to me. Due to the fact low market cap, 10% of that of GMX, they're going to receive 6 million tokens, $4.8 million worth of incentives. If we look at the current price of Arbitrum at around say 80 cents. But how are they going to be spending these ARB tokens? What are they incentivizing? So into the request here, grant breakdown, Mux plans to use grants to onboard more organic users to the Arbitrum ecosystem and increase user engagement, trading volume, TVL, and transactions. Pretty broad brush that. But it says tentatively 55% of the grant will be utilized to reduce trading fees for GMX V1, V2 gains, and MUX native pool positions open through the MUX aggregator. So MUX is an aggregator of these perp platforms, and they want to incentivize usage of their aggregator there, as you can see, by reducing those fees. And then 45% of this goes towards increasing the yield for the MUX native pools on Arbitrum. So quite an interesting one here. This already feeds into the GMX ecosystem as they are integrated with GLP pools. They want to enhance these even further. So this is obviously bullish for both MUX itself, but also GMX as well. GMX, I think, is just a clear, easy pick for a winner out of this whole situation more broadly. But MUX is a potential second fiddle play here, as they will receive a load of incentives there and could drive a lot more usage to their aggregator. And then thirdly, here we have DOPEX, but the rebate DOPEX token is the one I would suggest is probably going to benefit more so than DPX. This is an options protocol. They have launched perps as well. Seems to be a bit of an all-in-one. Has tetranodes backing, which, you know, could be seen as a positive or negative depending on where you sit on that. Here is the current chart of the rebate DOPEX token. What are they doing with their grant? Well, they've only asked for 1.5 million tokens in total, so not a huge one, but they're going to split this out as follows. The RDPX V2 receipt token stakers would receive 675k, the RDPX V2 perpetual put vault deposits 225k, and then DOPEX V2 concentrated liquidity AMM LPs would receive 600,000 tokens, so 500,000 tokens per month over that 3-month period. But what's interesting with this is that a lot of these incentives are going towards the RDPX token, and this requires people to bond their RDPX token in order to receive those incentives. They are therefore going to be locked for the duration to make the most out of the incentive program, and so this should disrupt the amount of supply demand metric on the market, as a lot of tokens would be bonded, and so the thesis is that this would help in price appreciation. It's a pretty low float token. This thing could go from say 20s, maybe run the range high somewhere up there, but this is only $1.2 million worth of tokens, and in comparison to some of the others receiving bigger grants, as you can see. So as you can see, millions of tokens going to these various platforms, a lot of food for thought. But I expect over the next few weeks, after the voting closes later on tonight, and prior to the incentives actually rolling out and starting to hit the hands of those savvy yield farmers, I think there will be a lot of positioning around these various tokens, and some of these could be good winners into the Q4 run. So drop me a comment down below. Have you looked through any of these proposals, and have any of these various projects really caught your attention and you've thought, damn, need to get a bag of this ready for the incentives to start flowing? See you guys in the next one. Peace.